6 Star Trek characters from Kirk's past that Strange New Worlds must still introduce. When Star Trek Strange New Worlds premiered, it promised an era of optimistic exploration and classic episodic storytelling, but it also positioned itself as a fascinating prequel playground. Captain Pike, number 1, and a young Spock anchored the show, but ever since Paul Wesley's surprise debut as a youthful James T. Kirk, the series has been quietly weaving threads of future history into its present. We've already met Sam Kirk, glimpsed the early stages of Kirk's command style, and even seen how his interactions with Pike foreshadowed the captain he'll become. Yet Kirk's past is still brimming with characters who shaped his formative years long before he took the center seat of the Enterprise. Strange New Worlds has a rare chance to deepen the franchise's mythology by introducing these key figures, not as trivia cameos but as living, breathing parts of its ongoing narrative. Here are 6 Star Trek characters from Kirk's past who Strange New Worlds still has time to introduce, and how the series could reinvent them for a modern audience. 1. Gary Mitchell, the best friend who became a god. For fans of the original series, Gary Mitchell is the quintessential friend from the Academy, a man Kirk trusted implicitly, only to face the tragedy of killing him when exposure to the galactic barrier transformed Mitchell into a near-omnipotent being in where no man has gone before. The original episode hints at a long history between Kirk and Mitchell, referencing pranks at Starfleet Academy and a deep camaraderie that predates the Enterprise. Strange New Worlds has the perfect opportunity to dramatize that backstory. Imagine a recurring arc where Mitchell serves as a young hotshot helmsman or tactical officer on a different vessel, occasionally crossing paths with Pike's Enterprise. We could see him and Kirk form the bond that will later make Mitchell's death so painful, perhaps even setting up Mitchell as the one person who helps Kirk navigate Starfleet's rigid hierarchy. Done right, it wouldn't just foreshadow where no man has gone before, but make that eventual story land with even greater emotional force. 2. Carol Marcus, the scientist who broke Kirk's heart. Carol Marcus, the brilliant Federation scientist introduced in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, is one of the most important unseen figures in Kirk's pre-Enterprise life. Canon establishes that she and Kirk had a relationship in the early 2250s and that their son, David, was born before Kirk's 5-year mission. In the films, their reunion is bittersweet. They're no longer together, and Kirk's absenteeism as a father haunts him. If Strange New Worlds wants to expand Kirk's personal life beyond heroic duty, Carol Marcus is a natural choice. She doesn't need to appear as Kirk's romantic partner immediately. Instead, she could debut as a young researcher aboard a Federation science outpost visited by the Enterprise. This would let the show depict her as an ambitious scientist in her own right, exploring early versions of the controversial Genesis research that will define her later. Seeing her meet Kirk for the first time, perhaps with Pike playing reluctant chaperone, could add new shades to both characters and give viewers a rare glimpse of Starfleet's civilian science wing. 3. Ben Finney, the officer who felt betrayed. In Court Martial, one of TOS's more dramatic episodes, Captain Kirk stands accused of jettisoning a crew member, Ben Finney, during a crisis. The episode reveals that Kirk and Finney had a fraught history stretching back to their Academy days. Finney harbored resentment toward Kirk for reporting him after a near-catastrophic mistake, a grudge that would later explode into revenge. Finney's backstory is ripe for exploration in Strange New Worlds. A younger Finney could appear as a promising officer, perhaps stationed on a starbase where the Enterprise frequently docks. We could watch the seeds of resentment being sown, Kirk trying to mentor Finney, Finney chafing at Kirk's rule following pragmatism, while Pike observes their dynamic with concern. A long-game approach would be especially powerful. Imagine Finney popping up across 2 or 3 seasons as a friend-turned-rival, with the audience already dreading the inevitable court-martial decades later. 4. Finnegan, the Academy bully. Sometimes the smallest names from Kirk's history are the most evocative. In Shore Leave, Kirk faces a holographic version of Finnegan, a cocky upperclassman who tormented him at the Academy. Their fistfight on the planet's surface is played for laughs, but it hints at Kirk's early vulnerability and the chip on his shoulder. Modern Trek could take Finnegan beyond comic relief. In Strange New Worlds, Finnegan might appear as a charismatic, risk-taking cadet or junior officer who constantly undermines Kirk. Not a villain, but an embodiment of the Starfleet golden boy Kirk is expected to be. Their rivalry could reveal why Kirk is so disciplined about his own conduct, why he values merit over pedigree, and why he sometimes bristles at authority figures. By turning Finnegan into a three-dimensional character rather than a footnote, Strange New Worlds could give viewers a rare look at Starfleet Academy culture. 5. Janet Wallace, the flame who chose duty. Another intriguing name from Kirk's past, Dr. Janet Wallace appeared in the TOS episode The Deadly Years as a former lover who left him for a more stable life in Starfleet Medical. Their encounter in that episode is tinged with regret and mutual respect. Little else is known about their early relationship. Introducing a younger Janet Wallace on Strange New Worlds could show a different side of Kirk's romantic history. Not the passionate, larger-than-life affair he had with Carol Marcus, but a quieter, more grown-up partnership cut short by ambition and duty. Wallace could be depicted as an up-and-coming Starfleet physician assigned to Pike's crew for a medical exchange program, allowing her to interact not only with Kirk but also with M'Benga, Chapel, and the rest of the medical team. Her presence would enrich the show's already strong focus on healthcare ethics and battlefield medicine. 6. Commodore Wesley, the mentor figure. Not to be confused with Paul Wesley, who plays Kirk on Strange New Worlds, Commodore Bob Wesley appeared in TOS's The Ultimate Computer as the commander of the USS Lexington. The episode implies that he and Kirk know each other well and that Wesley once served as a kind of senior colleague or mentor. This opens an enticing door for Strange New Worlds. Introducing a younger Commodore Wesley, perhaps still a captain or even a training instructor at Starfleet Academy, would let the series explore who shaped Kirk's leadership style. He could appear in flashbacks or as part of a larger Starfleet initiative intersecting with Pike's missions. By showing Kirk's interactions with a figure of genuine authority who isn't a villain or a rival, Strange New Worlds could balance its portrayal of Kirk's youth with the idea that he learned from the best. How Strange New Worlds could make these stories work. Dropping 6 new characters into an already busy ensemble might sound like a recipe for chaos, but Strange New Worlds has already demonstrated its skill at weaving serialized character arcs into episodic adventures. Just as the show used Lon Noonien Singh to recontextualize the Khan legacy or gave Uhura a mentorship arc with Hemmer, it can introduce these figures gradually, giving each a distinct function. For instance, Gary Mitchell might appear in a mid-season two-parter that explores the dangers of untested Starfleet technology. Carol Marcus could show up in a science-heavy episode involving a Genesis-like experiment gone awry. Ben Finney's first appearance might be in a courtroom drama where Kirk has to testify for or against him, planting the seeds of their future enmity. Finnegan could provide levity in a training exercise that goes wrong, revealing Kirk's growth under pressure. Janet Wallace,